All right, today we're going to dig into a really cool piece of ancient logic. It's from a Pali text, and it offers this kind of radical solution to suffering. Think of it like a mental tool that totally flips our usual way of solving problems upside down. And you know what? It all kicks off with one single, super important question. Okay, so let's jump right in. The whole thing starts with what seems like a pretty simple question, right? Kena abhisamaya. By what means do we really get it? How do we have that genuine aha moment that just changes everything? And believe me, this isn't just some dusty old philosophical question. Nope. This is the bedrock, the absolute foundation for the whole path to freedom. So the first answer that probably pops into your head is, well, with the mind, of course. In Pali, that's sittena. And yeah, that seems totally obvious, doesn't it? But here's the thing about this text, it does not settle for the obvious. Right away, it starts to push back, challenging that first easy answer to guide us somewhere way, way deeper. So it starts with this process of elimination. First up, can you comprehend something with the mind alone? The text says, nope, no way. And it makes sense, right? If you could, then literally anyone with a mind, no matter how, clueless, could just stumble into enlightenment. Okay, so what about the other way around? Can you get it with just wisdom or jnana on its own? And again, the answer is no. Wisdom isn't this free-floating thing. It has to have a mind to actually, work. All right, so here's our first big takeaway. For any real understanding to happen, mind and wisdom have got to be working together. They're a team. But the investigation doesn't just stop there. Oh no, it gets way more specific. It starts asking, okay, but what kind of mind are we talking about here? And what kind of wisdom? Is just any old thought process going to do the trick? And this is where things get really sharp. The text just systematically starts cutting away all the usual states of mind we live in. It says, look, it can't be a mind that's all tangled up in desire. It can't be a mind that's off in some deep, blissful, meditative state either. And it can't even be a mind that's just thinking about the past or daydreaming about the future or just stuck in the everyday grind. None of those, it tells us, have what it takes for a real breakthrough. So after it's crossed off everything on the list, we're left with one incredibly precise answer. True deep comprehension, that abhisamaya, it only happens in this one very specific, very heightened state, the super mundane path moment. It's this razor-sharp instant where a totally purified mind and brilliant wisdom become one, and they are aimed like a laser at a single target, nirodha, the complete and total cessation of suffering. Okay, so that's pretty cool. We've pinpointed the exact moment of understanding. But now that same razor-sharp logic is going to be applied to something even more down to earth. How in the world do we actually get rid of things like anger or greed or confusion? And this, my friends, is where things get really, really interesting. Because we're about to run smack into a paradox. I mean, just really think about this for a second. Can you abandon the anger you felt yesterday? Well, no, of course not. It's already passed. It's gone. Okay, well, can you abandon an anger you might feel tomorrow? Again, no, it doesn't even exist yet. So what about the anger you're feeling right this very second? And here's the twist. The text says you can't abandon that either. Why not? Because that would mean your mind is somehow angry and not angry at the exact same time. That's a flat-out contradiction. It's like trying to be soaking wet and perfectly dry in the same instant. It just doesn't work. You see? It's this brilliant, logical puzzle. It feels like a trap. If you can't get rid of these defilements in the past, the present, or the future, then what? Does that mean the whole thing is impossible? Is the entire path just a big dead end? The logic has backed us right into a corner. And it's from this exact spot, right here, that the real insight, the big reveal, comes out. And the answer the text gives is so simple, but so powerful. It just says, ati. There is. As in, there is a way. A path does exist. And to show us how, the argument makes this beautiful pivot away from the tricky logic and into a simple, crystal clear metaphor. It's the analogy of the tree that hasn't grown fruit yet. So picture a young sapling, right? It's never produced any fruit. Now someone comes along, but they don't bother looking for fruit because there isn't any. Instead, they just cut the tree right off at the root, chop. And by doing that, all the fruit that might have grown someday, well, now it never can. See? You're not fighting with existing fruit. You're just making it impossible for fruit to ever grow. So how does this apply to our own minds? Well, all of that potential anger, that potential greed, that's the unborn fruit. The spiritual path, then, isn't about trying to wrestle with a full-blown fit of rage while it's happening. That's like trying to fight the fruit after it's already grown. No, the real work, the smart work, isn't cutting the root. It's about getting to the cause that allows that anger to sprout in the first place. And this just changes everything, doesn't it? It completely shifts our focus. The real target isn't the anger itself. The target is its head to, its cause, its root, the condition that gives it life. So the practice becomes about something different. It becomes about developing the wisdom to see the danger in the arising of these things, and instead turning the mind towards non-arising. We stop treating the symptoms and we go right for the cause, aiming for a state where the problem doesn't even have a chance to start. Which brings us to the final, powerful, and honestly really elegant conclusion of the whole argument. Thus, with the cessation of the cause, suffering ceases. Evam hetu nirodha dukkha nirodho. And this isn't just some nice idea or wishful thinking. It's presented as a fundamental law, like gravity. If you remove the fuel, the fire has to go out. If you remove the root, the bitter fruit of suffering simply has no way to grow. So, what does this all mean for you and me? The big takeaway from this ancient piece of wisdom is incredibly practical. It's a challenge to stop being firefighters, always running around putting out fires in our lives after they've already started. Instead, it invites us to be more like wise gardeners of our own minds, to look for those subtle roots of suffering, those little unexamined habits, those hidden attachments. The idea is to take care of them now before they ever have a chance to bear their bitter fruit. So the question for us is, what roots of potential suffering in your own life could be addressed right now before they grow?